Okay, here's my next video of Christopher Columbus with the Taino in the American islands. The last video, the last episode was about how the Taino helped Columbus and his men off their ship, the Santa Maria, that was sinking. And so they brought him into the island, and now they're hanging out with him. And then this next chapter here that I'm going to read is going to be about Columbus sitting with the Taino, talking about various things. So, the admiral decides to make a settlement at this king's village and calls his settlement Navidad. And on Wednesday, December 26th, the chief king of the country came to the admiral's caravel, showing great sorrow and grief. He comforted the admiral, generously offering him any of his possessions that it would please him to receive. He said that he had already given the Christians 3 houses in which they could put everything they had secured from the ship, and he would have given them many more if they had required them. At this moment, a ship arrived with Indians from another island, bringing some sheets of gold to barter for bells, which they value above anything else. Sailors also arrived from the shore, saying that many Indians were coming into the village from other places, bringing gold objects, which they were exchanging for tags and other such things of small value, and offering to bring more gold if the Christians wanted it. When the great cazique saw the admiral liked gold, he promised to have a great quantity brought to him from Chibao, the place that had the most. He then prepared to go ashore, inviting the admiral to a feast of sweet potatoes and yuca, which are the principal foods, and giving him some masks with eyes and large ears of gold and other beautiful objects which they wore around their necks. He then complained about the Caribs, who captured his people and took them away to be eaten. But he was greatly cheered when the admiral comforted him by showing him our weapons and promising to defend him with them. But he was much disturbed by our cannon, which so frightened all the Indians that they fell down like dead men when they heard them fired. On receiving such kindness and such samples of gold from these people, the admiral almost forgot his grief for the loss of the ship, for he considered that God had allowed his ship to be wrecked in order that he should make a settlement and leave some Christians behind to trade and gather information about the country and its inhabitants, learning their language and entering into relations with these people. Thus, when the admiral returned with reinforcements, he would have people to advise him in all matters respecting the occupation and conquest of the country. He was the more inclined to this by the fact that many of the crew said that they would gladly remain behind and offered to make a settlement in this place. He therefore decided to construct a fort from the timbers of the wrecked ship, the Santa Maria, which had been stripped of everything that could possibly be useful. The Santa Maria was falling apart, if you remember the last episode. So now they're building a fort out of it, and it's just sitting in the water like a dead ship. And they're hanging out with the Indians and giving random things for gold. He was greatly assisted in this by the news that came next day, on Thursday, the 27th of December, 1492, that the caravel Pinta was lying in the river toward the eastern point of the island. In order to make certain of this, he ordered the cazique to provide a canoe with some Indians to take Spaniards to this place. When this man had gone 20 leagues down the coast, he turned back, bringing no news of the Pinta. Consequently, another Indian who claimed to have seen the caravel some days before was not believed. Nevertheless, the admiral did not halt his arrangements for leaving some Christians in this place. Everyone knew the goodness and the fertility of this land, since the Indians were offering our men many gold masks and objects and giving them information about various districts in the island where they found gold. When the admiral was on point of departure, he made a treaty with the king regarding the Caribs, of whom he complained so much and was in such real terror, in order that he should be pleased to have the Christians' company, and also to inspire him with fear of our weapons. Lombards fired at the side of the Santa Maria, and the ball passed right through the ship and fell into the water. And the king was both horrified and amazed. He's like, watch this, man. You see that dead ship out there? And he fired a cannon and sunk that bastard right in the water. All the Indians fell on the ground. They're like, what the hell was that thing? The admiral also showed him our other weapons, how wounds were made with some of the other used for defense, and told him that with such weapons to protect him, he need no longer fear the Caribs, because the Christians would kill all of them. The admiral said that he was leaving these Christians to defend him and would himself go back to Castile to fetch jewels and other things, which he would bring back as presents. He then begged him to be friendly to Diego de Araña, the son of Rodrigo de Araña of Cordoba, who had already been mentioned. He left this man, Pedro Gutierrez, and Rodrigo de Escobedo in command of the fort with 36 men and many goods and provisions, arms and artillery, and the ship's boat, with carpenters, caulkers, and other persons necessary for the settlement. That is to say, a doctor, a gunner, a tailor, and such the like. The admiral then made cheerful preparations for a direct return journey to Castile. He decided to make no further explorations, since he now had only one ship, and if this were wrecked, the Catholic sovereigns would have no knowledge of the kingdoms which he had just acquired for them. Well, I'm going to conclude this episode right here where Christopher Columbus goes back to Castile, and he'll return on a second trip back. But you can see at this point he still has good relationships with the Indians, or good relations with the Indians. And they have promises to each other. And I guess later in the future, Christopher Columbus plans on fighting the Caribs and finding more gold, obviously, and protecting the Taino as of now. But as you'll see in future episodes, things will be a lot different because things happen. So that concludes this day-to-day episode of Christopher Columbus. Until the next one, adios.